Joining me today is Dr. Carl Ladd, who's the Executive Director of the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. Carl, thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
I've got a lot of points pieces I want to talk about. But first, I guess, really focusing on some specifics. School funding. The chair of the Education Committee in the House, I believe, put forward a bill to raise adequacy by $30. I don't think he meant to do this because $30 is the right number, per se, from what I can see, but really to get into a conversation. What do you all see? When you think about adequacy? What are the issues that your organization is looking at? That when you talk to superintendents across the state, school administrators across the state, issues that face them on adequacy?
Well, I think that one of the biggest issues with adequacy is the fact that it is inadequate. It does not meet even the average per pupil cost to educate a child in the state of New Hampshire, which is around $12,000 a student.
So for almost all school districts?
That's the average across the state. And we are currently about $3,600.
Is that's the state funding?
Correct.
And so averages have min and max range. And I hate to ask for a specific number, but if 12,000 is sort of the average, on the low end, do we see 5,000, 6,000?
I think you do see somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 in some school districts. The likelihood, though, is that most of that is much higher. I'm thinking of most of the smaller school districts in the southwestern part of the state and in the North Country. Cost per pupil can be incredibly high. And a lot of that has to do with transportation as much as it does education occurring within the walls of the school.
So even if you take the low end, say we'll use 6,000, 8,000, 7,000, that's still half of what the low end average is, and it's a fraction of the average.
And it's adequacy, the base adequacy is about $3,600, and then you add so much for students who may be free and reduced lunch, students who may receive special education services, English as a second language. Those kinds of things add to the base cost, but it does not go anywhere near the cost to adequately educate a child. Adequacy, the current adequacy funding formula is not even based on the minimum standards for public education school approval. They cherry-picked pieces of this when the commission put together the original adequacy funding formula. They cherry-picked pieces of the minimum standards and included some, didn't include others, in order to keep the cost achievable.
Yep. So if you were to testify before the committee, and the $30 increase, I mean, it's not nothing. It beats kick in the pants, as my father used to say, but it's certainly not going to move the needle in any dramatic way. If you were to say, okay, I know that the state of New Hampshire isn't going to quadruple this or double this budget cycle, what would policy would you do to put forward the state on a trajectory that would get us toward covering an adequate education?
Well, I think that I really appreciate the fact that Representative Ladd, who is no relation to mine, which I'm sure is a great relief to him, the bill that he's putting forward really starts a conversation. And that was his testimony in front of the House Education Committee when he introduced it, was that this is going to be a conversation starter. And he's hoping that it will bring people to the table to have a grand bargain, if you will, around adequacy. I think, I know Representative Ladd, his heart is in the right place. I'm not sure that, I'm hopeful that the political will is there to do that. I'm just not sure in the current climate in Concord what will happen with it. But you know, we've tried over the years, dating way back to the 80s when we had Augenblick, the Augenblick formula. Yep. Had that been fully funded, there would have been no lawsuit.
So I'm going to have to stop you there. We have to go to a break. But when we return, we're going to continue this conversation and focus on what might be in the grand bargain. So please stay with us.